Welcome back to this sacred space of deep restoration. Tonight, we are going to step beyond the surface of regular thinking. We are going to speak directly to the master architect of your reality, your subconscious mind. While your conscious eyes close, your deeper self awakens. Let go of the heavy illusion of modern struggle. Breathe in stillness and breathe out the noise of the world. Before we begin our journey through tonight's 12 deep parables, look down at the pinned comment below. If you feel chosen to radically elevate your life, I have left access to an advanced mental alignment structure, the subconscious millionaire system. It is a precise blueprint designed to rewrite your internal financial architecture while you rest. Now, let the weight of your body sink into the bed and let us begin. In an ancient eastern province, a master artist was famous for carving flawless jade sculptures that emperors bought for fortunes. Young apprentices traveled from distant lands to learn his technique. They expected to see advanced tools, complex math, and intense physical labor. Instead, when they arrived at his workshop, they found the master sitting in complete silence, eyes closed, gently holding a raw, unshaped piece of green jade in his hands. For 3 whole months, the master did not strike the stone even once. He simply sat by the window, letting the sunlight and the moonlight pass over the rock. The students grew restless and whispered that the old man had lost his mind. They asked him why he was wasting time doing absolutely nothing while other carvers were working day and night to produce pieces. The master opened his eyes, smiled softly, and told them to observe the nature of quiet water. He told them that carving without knowing the soul of the stone is just violence. He explained that if he forced his own conscious will upon the jade too early, he would only create cracks and ruin its natural value. He was not waiting in laziness. He was letting the perfect shape reveal itself to his mind first. He allowed his subconscious vision to map every hidden line inside the stone, until the sculpture was completely finished in his mind. On the first day of the 4th month, the master finally picked up his small wooden mallet and chisel. Moving with absolute grace and without a single moment of hesitation or mistake, he finished the entire masterpiece in just 3 hours. The jade seemed to melt under his hands, creating a sculpture of an imperial dragon that looked alive. The surface was so perfectly smooth it looked as if it had been shaped by the wind over 1,000 years. The master looked at his amazed students and said that the work is never done by the frantic hands. The hands only trace what the subconscious has already completed in total stillness. When you force your life through constant struggle, you break the material you are working with. True mastery is the art of alignment. You must allow the internal blueprint to become crystal clear before you try to manifest it in the physical world. High up in the sacred mountains, there was a magnificent monastery built next to a strange, misty lake. The monks who lived there never had to worry about droughts, storms, or bad crops. Whenever the surrounding valleys suffered from terrible famine, the monastery always had an abundance of sweet fruits, pure water, and golden wheat. A curious merchant from the city decided to climb the mountain to discover their secret. The merchant searched the monastery grounds for hidden storehouses, underground vaults, or secret trade agreements with wealthy kings, but he found absolutely nothing. He saw no giant fields of grain and no armies protecting food. He only saw monks meditating by the shore, walking in silence and breathing the mountain air. He approached the eldest monk and asked how they managed to remain so wealthy in the middle of a barren desert. The old monk walked the merchant to the edge of the misty lake and asked him to look at his own reflection in the deep, dark water. The merchant looked down, but the surface was rippled by the wind, and he could only see a distorted, blurry image of his own face. The monk told him to wait until the wind stopped. After a few minutes, the water became perfectly still, acting like a pristine glass mirror that reflected the whole sky. The monk explained that the lake was connected to an ancient, invisible underground river that crossed the entire continent. The river was fed by the core of the earth and could never run dry, no matter how hot the sun became. The monk told the merchant that the people in the valley were poor because they only trusted the rain they could see. When the clouds vanished, their hearts filled with panic and their crops died of fear. The monastery was rich because they relied entirely on the invisible supply of the deep earth. But to access that supply, the mind had to be as still as the lake. If your mind is constantly rippled by worry, anxiety, and the fear of lack, you cannot reflect the infinite abundance of the universe. Wealth is not what you collect with your hands. It is the deep, invisible source you allow yourself to connect with when you sleep. For over 4 decades, a dedicated farmer in a quiet valley cared for a rare species of eastern bamboo. He planted the tiny seed in rich, dark soil, watered it every morning, and made sure no weeds blocked the sunlight. However, during the first, second, third, and fourth years, absolutely nothing broke through the surface of the earth. The field looked completely empty, barren, and dead. The neighbors laughed at the farmer as they walked past his land. They told him he was wasting his limited life, water, and energy on a ghost. They urged him to dig up the soil and plant quick crops like wheat or radishes that could give him immediate money. But the farmer remained in total peace. He understood a secret law of nature. The grandest structures require the deepest foundations. During those 4 long years of invisible waiting, the bamboo was not sleeping. Beneath the dark soil, it was quietly developing a massive, complex network of roots that stretched for miles under the valley. It was anchoring itself into the bedrock of the earth, preparing its internal structure for the immense weight and height it was destined to carry in the near future. On the first morning of the 5th year, a small green shoot finally cracked the dry soil. What happened next amazed the entire province. The bamboo began to grow at an unbelievable speed, shooting up over 3 feet every single day. Within 6 weeks, a magnificent, unbreakable green forest stood tall against the sky, reaching over 80 feet in height, becoming a source of endless wealth. The farmer smiled as he looked at his massive bamboo forest. He realized that the tree did not grow in 6 weeks, it grew in 5 years. If it had rushed to the surface without its hidden root system, the first gentle wind would have knocked it down. True abundance works exactly the same way. Your subconscious is building the roots right now, preparing you for a growth that cannot be shaken. An ambitious young builder was hired by a wealthy king to design a magnificent palace in the middle of a vast desert. The builder wanted to impress the monarch immediately, so he ordered thousands of workers to pile heavy stones on top of each other without resting. He did not draw plans, he did not measure the angles, and he did not study the constant shifts of the golden desert sand. He believed that speed, sweat, and brute force were the only things that mattered in construction. He wanted everyone to see his progress from miles away. Within 3 months, a massive stone tower stood tall against the desert wind. The builder celebrated his quick victory and asked for his payment. But that very night, a gentle, silent wind shifted the soft sand beneath the heavy structure. Because there was no hidden foundation beneath the ground, the massive stone tower tilted violently and collapsed into a giant cloud of dust. The king was furious, dismissed the young builder, and hired an old, quiet architect who spent weeks just staring at the empty dunes. For 30 days, the old man did not move a single stone. He only walked the perimeter, listening to the desert. The old architect spent an entire month drawing invisible lines in his mind and mapping the deep, solid bedrock beneath the shifting sand. When he finally started building, he spent most of the king's budget underground, creating a massive foundation that no one could see from the surface. The workers complained that it was a waste of time because nothing was visible to the eye. But when the palace was finally finished, it stood for 1,000 years, surviving every desert storm and earthquake. True abundance cannot be built on superficial, frantic effort. It must be anchored in the deep, unshakable bedrock of the subconscious mind. If you do not spend time building your internal structure through rest and alignment, your outer wealth will always slide away like sand. In a quiet village, an old weaver spent her days creating beautiful tapestries made of fine silk and silver thread. Her work was so perfect that people felt a deep sense of peace just by looking at her designs. Kings and merchants traveled from across the seas just to purchase a single piece of her work. A young girl asked her how she managed to weave such complex patterns without ever making a single mistake or pulling the wrong thread. The old woman smiled and pointed to the back of the heavy wooden loom. She turned the tapestry around to show the girl the hidden side. To the girl's surprise, the back was a chaotic mess of knots, loose ends, and tangled threads that looked completely random, dark, and ugly. She told the girl that life looks exactly like the back of the loom when you look at it with your conscious eyes. It looks confusing, unfair, and chaotic. She explained that while we see the mess, the subconscious mind is weaving the front of the tapestry. It creates a masterpiece of perfect alignment out of every single random thread. If you panic during the dark knots, you ruin the harmony of the final design. You must learn to trust the invisible hands of the weaver. When you stop fighting the individual threads of your daily life and relax, you allow prosperity to unfold naturally. Every single setback, every delay, and every closed door is just a hidden thread creating a much larger pattern of abundance. The girl looked at the beautiful front of the canvas again and understood. True wealth requires you to stop judging the process by its temporary knots. When you let go of the need to control every single thread, the master weaver inside you reveals the golden design you were always meant to live. A powerful emperor once built a massive garden made entirely of fragile glass flowers, crystal trees, and delicate porcelain birds. He spent his days in constant terror, fearing that a single gust of wind or a careless animal would shatter his beautiful creation. He banned everyone from entering, placed armed guards at every gate, and lived a lonely, stressful life surrounded by a cold, artificial beauty that brought him no true joy. He spent millions of gold coins maintaining the fragile illusion of perfection. He could not sleep at night, constantly checking the weather and worrying about the clouds. One night, a heavy hailstorm swept through the valley and shattered the entire glass garden into millions of sharp pieces. The emperor wept over the ruins, feeling completely broken, poor, and defeated. He felt as if his entire wealth had vanished in a single hour. A wise hermit who was passing by the palace walls heard his loud cries and stepped inside the courtyard. The hermit looked at the glittering debris and told the emperor that the storm was actually the greatest blessing of his life. He explained that the emperor had been a prisoner of his own creation. True wealth is not a fragile thing you must guard with weapons. It is a living, breathing force that regenerates itself naturally. The hermit took a small leather bag of real organic seeds and scattered them over the broken glass and wet soil. Within months, a beautiful wild garden of real roses, green trees, and singing birds grew from the earth. The emperor realized that his glass garden had been a monument to his fear of loss. When you clear away the rigid, fragile structures of scarcity, the natural, unstoppable abundance of life takes over. A very successful merchant in a bustling city was obsessed with collecting gold coins. He believed that the only way to stay secure was to hold on to every single penny he earned. He carried his wealth in a massive, heavy iron chest that he dragged everywhere he went. He refused to buy good food, comfortable clothes or a soft bed, choosing instead to sleep on the hard floor right next to his locked iron box. As the years passed, the chest grew so heavy that the merchant could no longer walk upright. His back was permanently bent, and his hands were covered in painful calluses from pulling the heavy weight. He was terrified of thieves, so he never closed his eyes for more than an hour at a time. He was surrounded by wealth, yet his body and his mind were living in the deepest, most miserable state of poverty and exhaustion. One evening, he met an old traveler sitting by a campfire who was traveling the world with nothing but a small cloth bag. The traveler looked at the merchant's heavy chest and asked him why he chose to be a slave to metal. The merchant replied angrily that this gold was his security and his power. The traveler laughed softly and asked if the gold was serving the merchant, or if the merchant was spending his limited life serving the gold. That night, a sudden flash flood rushed through the valley where they were resting. The water rose quickly, covering the ground. The traveler easily jumped to a high rock, safe from the current. The merchant, however, refused to let go of his heavy iron chest. He tried to swim while holding the metal handle, but the immense weight dragged him deep under the surface, nearly costing him his life at the bottom of the river. In a moment of pure panic, he finally let go of the handle. The moment he released the chest, his body floated effortlessly to the surface, and he gasped for air. He crawled onto the riverbank, alive but completely empty-handed. As he watched his gold sink into the dark mud, a strange sense of absolute peace washed over him. He realized that true wealth is the capacity to flow, not the desperate need to cling to heavy weight. A very wealthy governor built an underground vault to protect his massive collection of diamonds, rubies, and gold coins. He was so terrified of poverty that he spent his days locked inside the dark room, counting his treasures over and over again. Yet, no matter how many millions he accumulated, his heart felt completely empty, dry, and cold. He always felt like a starving man in a kitchen. One night, a wise Zen monk crawled into the treasury through a small ventilation shaft. The governor drew his sword, demanding to know if the monk was there to steal his hard-earned fortune. The monk laughed softly, shook his head, and pointed to a massive, dusty mirror hanging on the back wall of the vault. He told the governor that he was there to show him the only real thief in the room. The monk took a silk cloth and wiped the thick dust off the mirror, forcing the governor to look at his own reflection. The man saw a tired, pale face with deep wrinkles of anxiety, cold eyes filled with fear, and a body shaking with paranoia. The monk asked him if a man who lives in constant terror of loss can truly be called wealthy, or if he is just a guard looking after metal. The monk explained that external wealth is completely useless if the internal mirror reflects a state of absolute scarcity. If you feel poor on the inside, a mountain of gold will only amplify your internal poverty. The governor broke down in tears, realizing he had become a slave to his fears. He dropped his sword, opened the vault doors to help his people, and finally found true internal peace. A master potter in a small village was famous for creating beautiful ceramic vases that looked absolutely flawless on the outside. One afternoon, he created a special vase using a rare, glowing clay. However, as the vase dried in the hot sun, a tiny, almost invisible internal crack formed near the base. The potter noticed it, but decided to ignore it since the outside looked beautiful. A wealthy merchant bought the vase for a high price and placed it in the center of his grand dining table. He filled it with expensive wines and fresh water every single day to impress his guests. But within a few weeks, the merchant noticed that the table was always damp. No matter how much liquid he poured into the vase, the water level dropped overnight, leaving the flowers dry and withered. The merchant brought the vase back to the potter, complaining that his expensive purchase could not hold abundance. The old potter inspected the piece, holding it up against the bright sunlight, and pointed to the deep, hidden internal crack. He told the merchant that it does not matter how much fresh water you pour into the top, if there is an unhealed fracture at the very bottom. He explained that many people live their lives just like that cracked vase. They tried to pour money, luxury, and external validation into their lives, but it always drains away, leaving them feeling empty and anxious. The problem is never the supply. The problem is the internal leak. You must allow your subconscious mind to heal the hidden cracks of unworthiness before you can hold true prosperity. A magnificent merchant ship was loaded with spice, silk, and gold coins, ready to cross the ocean to a distant land of opportunity. The ship had 2 captains sharing the wooden wheel. The first captain was the conscious mind, who stood on the deck, shouting orders, looking at maps, and worrying constantly about the dark clouds, the shifting winds, and the depth of the water. The second captain was the subconscious mind, who sat quietly in the lower cabins, holding the true rudder of the ship, completely connected to the deep currents, the magnetic fields of the earth, and the ancient rhythm of the tides. The first captain on deck lived in total panic, turning the wheel left and right every time a small wave hit the hull, exhausting the entire crew. One night, a massive tropical storm caught the ship in the middle of the dark sea. The conscious captain panicked, screaming that they were going to sink, spinning the wheel erratically based on fear. But deep below, the subconscious captain remained perfectly calm. He felt the true direction of the deep ocean current and gently guided the rudder to align with the natural flow of the water. The moment the frantic conscious captain grew exhausted and fainted from stress, the ship automatically aligned itself with the deep current. It cut through the giant waves with absolute grace, arriving at the golden harbor by sunrise without a single scratch. True wealth requires you to let go of the frantic steering wheel of your mind and trust the deeper captain who knows the sea. A young, bitter man lived in a beautiful valley surrounded by tall, majestic mountains. He believed that the world was completely unfair, that everyone was against him, and that prosperity was a rigged game reserved only for the lucky. One afternoon, out of pure frustration, he climbed to the highest peak, looked out at the vast open space, and screamed with all his might, "The universe is empty." A few seconds later, a powerful voice boomed back from the distant mountains, repeating his exact words, "The universe is empty." The young man grew furious, clenching his fists, and yelled even louder into the wind, "You are all thieves." Immediately, the mountain walls echoed back with equal force and intensity, "You are all thieves." He sat on a cold rock, feeling completely defeated. An old monk who was gathering herbs nearby watched the scene and smiled with deep compassion. He approached the angry young man and told him that the mountains were not insulting him. They were simply obeying a fundamental law of reality. The monk stepped to the edge of the cliff, breathed in the crisp mountain air, and yelled with a joyful heart, "Abundance is everywhere." Within moments, the entire valley filled with a magnificent, beautiful resonance as the mountains echoed back over and over again, "Abundance is everywhere." The monk looked at the stunned young man and explained that life is nothing but a grand cosmic echo chamber. What you project from your deepest internal state is exactly what the universe is forced to return to you. If you scream scarcity, fear, and resentment into the world, your reality will echo that back into your daily experience. But when you change your internal vibration to peace, trust, and gratitude, the entire universe has no choice but to reflect that beauty back into your life. The echo always starts within you. Tonight, let your mind whisper prosperity and watch your world transform. In a hidden valley, there lived a legendary weaver who had been completely blind since birth. Yet she created the most colorful and harmonious garments in the world. People wondered how someone who had never seen light could match colors so perfectly without a single mistake. A skeptical scholar traveled to her home, determined to prove that she was using a secret helper or a trick to fool the public. The scholar watched her work for 3 full days. He saw her reach into different baskets of yarn without looking, pulling out threads of deep blue, bright gold, and dark red, weaving them into a flawless design. He finally stepped forward and asked her how her hands knew exactly which color to pick when her eyes lived in total darkness. The blind weaver stopped her loom and smiled at the visitor. She told him that she did not see the colors with her eyes. She felt their temperature and vibration with her soul. She explained that the conscious eyes are easily fooled by surface appearances, but the deeper intelligence within her knew the exact place where every thread belonged. She did not worry about the final outcome because the complete pattern was already alive inside her heart before she even touched the loom. The scholar left in silence, finally understanding the secret of creation. You do not need to see every step of your future with your physical eyes to build a life of abundance. When you clear away the anxiety of the mind and trust the internal wisdom of your subconscious, your hands will automatically pick the right threads. Prosperity is not an external search. It is a pattern you carry inside. As these 12 stories settle deep into your spirit, feel the heavy armor of struggle melting away from your body. You do not need to force the river to flow. You do not need to fight the world for your abundance. The infinite well is already open within you, waiting for your mind to become completely still. Your subconscious mind has recorded every single word of truth tonight. While your body enters a state of deep, restorative sleep, your internal architecture is already rewriting itself, dissolving the artificial blocks society placed upon you. You are worthy of effortless wealth. You are aligned with the natural flow of creation. Before you drift into beautiful dreams, remember to look at the pinned comment below to claim your complete mental blueprint with the subconscious millionaire system. Let it guide your deeper self into absolute financial peace while you rest. Close your eyes now. Breathe in abundance and let go. Sleep deeply. Sleep in peace.